It is a magnificent day to just show up. Hi, everyone. Yvonne Heath here, nurse turned author, speaker, changemaker, and your host. Welcome to Navigating Grief with Heart and Humor, where we talk about, plan, and prepare for grief, transitions, end of life, and all the messiness in between, long before it arrives and diffuse the fear, so we can live fully now. Well, that is the aspiration. Most of the time we have been in the deep trenches of grief and crisis or trauma, and we realized how ill-prepared we were. And we want to do it differently now, starting now and moving forward. We are learning, unlearning, and evolving. We are supporting one another, sharing stories, being okay to get it wrong, and then trying to do better next time, because that is the very best that we can do. And so I honor you for being here. It isn't easy to have these conversations sometimes, especially when life is a little prickly, as mine is right now. And, you know, it's so interesting when we understand and accept that life is unpredictable, prepare for anything, change is the only constant, and that we are here to learn. We cannot control everything. If we get mired in why is this happening, we will create our own suffering. So accepting all of this has really helped me to be able to just show up for you, be here, and I am so honored and glad that you chose to just show up today. So as always, I want to start with a little fun fact, a story. I always aspire to share my message with heart, humor, and humanness because it's already serious enough. And I just wanted to share this wonderful little two little miracles that I've just seen as miracles, because oftentimes we have nests very high up in our trees, and two robins decided to build their nest, one right on our deck, like just right on the wall beside our deck, and then one on our shed. So, I mean, it was almost at eye level. We could just witness this incredible mama bird. Perhaps the dad was helping. I'm not really sure. I can't really tell which is which. But there were often two birds there. And they built this incredible nest. And then she laid her eggs. And, you know, it's incredible just to watch the instinct, and they know what to do. Kind of always feel like with adults, we're like, who qualified me to be a parent? I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. But this beautiful mama bird, she sat on those eggs, and then these four eggs hatched, and there were these four babies there. And it was just, she went to the yard, and we could just see it was right there. Went to the yard and got worms and fed them all. And I could just see them getting bigger and bigger, and it was getting kind of tight in the nest. And they were trying to fly, but couldn't, trying to fly, but couldn't. And then I went out one day, and they were all gone. They were all gone. And it was just that whole parallel for me of watching this beautiful miracle, and there was so much joy. And then I was kind of grieving. I was like, oh, where are my birds? And I wonder if they're doing okay. And they've taken flight, you know, and that just, it's a beautiful story because we get to witness these miracles. And I was so grateful. And then I felt so sad when they were gone, and I chose to believe that they were all doing really well. And it just goes right along with what I wanted to chat about today. And that is in navigating children, or helping children to navigate grief. And I wanted to share the 7 takeaways with children in mind. And today I actually dedicate my show to educators and parents and healthcare professionals and community members, compassionate community members who support children who are trying to do their very best for them. Because first of all, we can't teach what we don't know. And secondly, we just want to protect our children so much. And it is something that, to give them roots and wings, to know that we are doing the best that we can do. They've got this. It's easier said than done. That's for sure. So I want to start with, as everyone, of course, has very busy lives, a lot of things calling you away on the other side of that door. And I invite you to create a ritual of sort of wherever you go and you have something important and you want to tend to. Well, of course, we always want to be mindful, but when something is, you want to be intentional about learning something. And so I always take a moment to sort of land here, be fully present. I close my eyes. I take 2 slow, deep breaths. When I inhale, I just set an intention, what I want to share today and learn today. I'm always learning. And when I exhale through my mouth, I just ground myself and just let go of all the distractions, which obviously will keep coming, but I just keep letting them go. So I invite you to join me or create your own ritual of being able to land somewhere and be fully present and mindful and set an intention. So I'm just going to close my eyes, take a slow inhale through my nose, and exhale through my mouth. And one more time. It truly does calm the nervous system, and that is something that we can do many times during the day, no matter where we are, and especially if we are challenged. Taking that time to just step away. You can do this anywhere. You can do it at your desk. Who cares if the person next to you thinks you look a little weird because you're like all zen-like? It is something that we can do for ourselves throughout the day, especially in stressful situations. So, all right, so let's get started. As you know, I've shared my 7 takeaways with thousands and thousands of people. These are the principles that I learned from 27 years of nursing, many years of parenting, and interviewing hundreds and hundreds of people and attending webinars. And I've just sort of gathered these principles that I believe are the essential principles to live by so that we can live life to the fullest, learn to grieve and support one another, and yes, have the talk about end of life long before it arrives and diffuse the fear. So we can become proactive, we can fill that gap, not just be reactive to a situation, but before, develop coping skills, strategies, and a solid foundation and a soft landing so that when grief arrives, not if, when grief arrives, we have this soft landing. And when it comes to supporting children, the very best thing that we can start with is supporting ourselves, just showing up for ourselves first and learning and teaching by example. I know so many times we want to be strong for children. We want to protect them and not, tell them the whole story. And I choose to do this differently. And so like I said, I'm going to go through the 7 takeaways with the lens of how to support children through supporting ourselves. And I always invite you to share any tidbits, anything that's been helpful for you. So takeaway number 1, as always, the elephant in the room, the hardest part of this journey. The best time to talk about, plan, and prepare for grief transitions and end of life is when we are young and healthy. And the next best time is now. When it comes to conversations about grief, transitions, end of life, we as a society have not normalized that at home, at school, in the workplace, in our communities. And we are slowly getting better, and we need to do so much more. And it starts with you, and it starts with me. And so if you are a parent who is at home and you've never had these conversations with yourself, and again, it always has to start with you. But if you have children, or you have friends with children, whoever it may be, you can start these conversations. And it's like awkward conversation. I didn't have these talks growing up. I've never normalized this. I've always pushed grief aside. I don't know how to do this differently. And that is a beautiful place to start. Accepting that maybe this wasn't the best way. And of course, your parents or whoever was teaching you did the best that they could. And you're doing the best you could. You did. And now you can do it differently. And to say to children, I realize that we don't talk about some of the harder stuff, like, when we're grieving and that's just whenever you're sad about anything, your friend moving, you're changing schools, maybe you had a fight with your little friend, or a grandparent died, or someone is ill. Sadly, we all know that cancer and many other illnesses have touched every single life. So if it hasn't directly affected your family, they certainly have a friend whose family member has cancer. I mean, it's like an epidemic. So we can no longer pretend that, oh, my family's fine, because along the way somewhere it is going to show up. And so to start normalizing those conversations just by saying, you know what, I didn't talk about this and I kind of wish I did. Not really sure how to do it, but I do want to start. And to approach with a curiosity. Children are very curious. They are curious, and to be able to open the door for conversation is wonderful, and prepared to be uncomfortable. Prepared to not know the answers. Say, just, again, if you can approach with heart, humor, and humanness, and your humanness includes honesty. Wow, that's a really good question. I really don't know the answer. What do you think? What happens when we die? What happens where's Opa's body right now? Or, what about their spirit? Have these conversations. Be curious, explore it, and be okay to get it wrong. Be okay to get it wrong. Allow all feelings. Yeah, this kind of makes me uncomfortable too. Oh, yeah, thinking about our dog that died, that makes me cry. I'm gonna have a little bit of a tear right now. If we can acknowledge that we don't really know, right? As when I was interviewing so many people for my book so many years ago, 2014, what I heard more than anything was, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. This is so uncomfortable. How do we get good at anything? I know you know the answer. We practice. We practice. We get it wrong. We're uncomfortable. I mean, it's such a great analogy is driving, right? I remember the first time getting behind the wheel of a car. I was terrified. Oh my gosh, this is terrifying. And then, then you're getting a little better, but you're really stiff driving and you're nervous, and and then slowly but surely, with more and more practice and guidance and coaches and reading about it, you get more and more comfortable. And maybe sometimes you are uncomfortable in a traffic jam, but you still navigate it. It's no different with these conversations about grief transitions and end of life and all the messiness in between. Of course, you don't know how to do this. We haven't normalized that. So be compassionate with yourself and others and learn as you go along the way, and be okay to get it wrong. And when you're talking about transitions, just remember that transitions are always change, right? Whether you're changing schools, you're changing classrooms as children, you didn't make a team, now you're on a team and you have this big commitment. There's grief and joy. Grief and joy can coexist. Grief because you didn't make the team, joy because you have more time, grief because you did make, or grief because now that you made the team, you have this big, huge commitment, and there's kind of now you're nervous. I mean, it's all these feelings. And grief isn't a feeling, it's a journey, and it's this umbrella which allows for any feelings: happy, sad, mad, glad, angry, irritable, anything. You can feel anything in grief. And so to start those conversations and know that we are meant to learn this ongoing. I've read hundreds of books, and I've attended many seminars. I have so many mentors, and I've immersed myself in this, and I still learn every day. So approach it with curiosity, approach it with being okay to not be the strong adult who has all the answers. Learn together, grieve together, and be curious together. I could talk about that one all day. Okay, takeaway number 2. It takes a village. It takes a village to support those who are ill, caregiving, dying, bereaved, marginalized, and it takes a village to support one another. We have normalized suffering in silos of silence and isolation, pretending we are fine when we're not, being independent, not asking for help. And I invite you to change that paradigm with me, that belief that that's the way to do it. Because what that creates is excessive suffering. What that creates is loneliness, more heartache. It exacerbates and compounds grief, mental health issues, physical health issues, you name it. So many of us believe that when someone is in crisis or has a mental health breakdown, is suicidal, has a chronic illness, or is dying, that the healthcare professionals, the healthcare system will take care of this 24/7, and we are not qualified. Here's the thing, and the hard truth and the hard fact. The healthcare system, therapy, counselors, doctors are a very important part of our wellness team, of our compassionate community. However, they are a part of our journey. They will never be able to take care of us 24/7. And whatever we are going through is something that we will navigate long after 6 therapy sessions, long after our doctor's appointments or physiotherapy or whatever it may be. We need our healthcare professionals and our compassionate communities to be a part of our journeys. We need our family, friends, neighbors, coworkers, our teachers, our healthcare professionals, everyone, as we create a wellness team, not just one person. Let's not just rely on one person. Let's create our wellness team. And here's the other big thing. And I just spoke to an amazing guidance counselor who just I said, I'm calling again because, I'm always the one that's going to rat everybody out, because I was concerned about some students. And I just wanted them on the school's radar. And this beautiful, wonderful guidance counselor, someone who is a part of my compassion community, my team, and so many others. And I always let him know that someone may be pretending they're fine when they're not. Someone may want or need help but doesn't know how to ask. And so the words that he said to me, he said, I wish everyone felt this way, because we can't help if we don't know. Let me repeat that. We can't help if we don't know. So many of us feel like, okay, well, the therapist knows, my doctor knows. And then for the rest of the time, we feel like we don't want to burden anyone. We don't want to trouble others with our problems. And here's the thing. When we approach life like that, that is what we are teaching our children. Sorry, elephant in the room, little tough love there. This is what we are teaching others by our own example. Oh, I don't want to burden anyone, or, I'll just keep this quiet. excessive suffering, silos of silence and isolation. We can't help if we don't know. And the other thing is that to be a part of a compassionate community, to know, just think about it. When someone comes to you and says, I'm struggling with this, even if you don't know what to do, or say, don't you feel, I feel honored when someone has shared that with me. I can't fix it. It is not my job to fix it. And here's the beautiful thing to let you off the hook. If you hear a hard story and you don't know what to do and you don't know what to say, that's okay. That's okay. That's what the therapists are for. They can guide that person with objective skills, etc. However, to love and support people along their journey is what we need the most and is what children need the most. And children need to be able to say that they're having a hard time. Just think about, there's a lot of guilt sometimes in feeling badly. Like the transitions, for example, with children. Suddenly they have a new baby brother. And you know what? They're supposed to be all happy and, oh, you're such a good big brother, big sister. And they're sitting there going, all this baby does is poop and cry. And now I can't do good things, more fun things with my parents, or the things I used to do. I'm not very happy about this right now. Can you imagine a little child who's supposed to be the happy big brother, big sister, having all these hard feelings and being too afraid or feeling ashamed to express them, right? Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could just step back and say, yeah, I get it. I miss sleeping too. And, I mean, I'll clean the poo so many times a day, but I mean, I'm not thrilled about it. And create that space to have those conversations. I think that is extraordinary and something that we can do. There's no PhD requested answer there. It's just like, yeah, I get it for sure. Or when a child is going from kindergarten to grade 1 and suddenly they're in the bigger class or the bigger schoolyard, or they're leaving their teacher that they just are so fond of, and they're supposed to be so excited, and maybe they are very excited about summer and being a big kid, and maybe they're also scared and nervous, and of course they're going to miss their teacher and their little class. Maybe they're going to a bigger class. Imagine if we were able to, as a compassionate community, as family, friends, neighbors, whoever it may be, say, oh yeah, I get it. Yeah, it's kind of like having a new big brother. You're happy, or a little brother. You're happy and you're sad and you're sappy and things are changing, and the same with changing schools or whatever it may be. I think we can diffuse so much just by being curious, learning together, and creating that space to have those conversations and allowing it. Quite often we say, oh, well, why do you feel that? You shouldn't feel that way. Oh my goodness. Can we never say that to anyone? You shouldn't feel that way. Have you ever tried to stop your feelings? Your feelings are your feelings. You feel what you feel. Like, oh, I'm very mad right now. I shouldn't be mad. Let me turn that feeling off. How we can diffuse our anger or sadness or whatever is by expressing it. And by having people allow that space to say, thanks for sharing that with me. Yeah, I get it. Or just, if you don't get it, thanks for sharing that with me. That must be hard. Heart, humor, humanness. That's all we need to approach these with. Oh, such important conversations. And again, we haven't normalized having this throughout life. So don't be down on yourself and say, oh, I wish I would have done this a long time ago. Me too. Me too. So as we create that foundation for conversations, and we create our wellness team and our compassionate community, and we reach out more, and we ask, you know what, I could use a little help here. Or we are reaching out and saying, I'm concerned here. I would say, and tell children this as well. If you're unhappy about something or you're worried about a little friend, it's okay to go tell the teacher. It's okay to tell your mom, tell someone. I promise you, no matter what you share, I will be here for you. Which goes to takeaway number 3, and the takeaway that I always say, no matter what I share with you, if you do not remember anything else, we can, I was going to say we can teach this to children, but I will tell you right now, we can learn from children because they know how to do this. They just get nervous because perhaps we stop them. Because when you don't know what to do and you don't know what to say and it's awkward, it's uncomfortable and you can't fix it, the very best you can do, the very best we can teach children to do is, 3 magic words, just show up. Just show up. Just show up and sit beside your friend who is crying. Just show up and say, I know you're sad. I'm sad too. Just show up and be okay with not being okay. We can do so many good things and help heal people's hearts just by caring, by creating that safe space to talk, by acknowledging and allowing all feelings. Children know how to just show up. I've given them the I Just Showed Up bracelets and they get it. And I've interviewed children and I've heard them say, I just showed up for a new girl in my class because nobody else was talking to her. So I went to talk to her. I just showed up for this dog because he looked sad, so I was petting him. I just showed up. My one little sweet cousin said, I just showed up for mom when she was crying because Poppy died. I just sat on her knee. If we can model this for children, if we can learn with children, we can simplify this and not put so much pressure on ourselves to know all the answers, to know what to do, to know what to say. We have been reactive. So now I say in the past, we were reactive, right? We waited till we were in a crisis and then we tried to figure out what to do about it. And then we had those awkward conversations. Now we're going to try to talk about it before, during, and always. We're going to normalize these hard conversations. And you know what? What makes them harder is not having them and just keeping them all inside. If we can teach by example and learn with children and learn as we go along and be okay to get it wrong, we can make the difference in their lives, in our lives as we move forward. I invite you to start today. In the past, this is how I navigated this. Moving forward, I want to do it differently. I'm going to learn, unlearn, and evolve. Kidsgrief.ca, by the way, is an excellent resource. You can find that. And there are webinars. And I believe if we just carve out a little time to learn how to navigate this, we can do this very differently. And so in the next episode, I'm going to continue talking about the takeaways and supporting grieving children. And of course, how we do that best is by teaching ourselves. So I thank you from the bottom of my heart for just showing up today and being willing to be the change, because we can do this differently moving forward. And so, as always, of course, my call to action, just go to my website. There's lots of resources. Watch my TED Talk. That will be helpful. And if you want to be empowered, resilient, and be able to just show up for children, teach by example and start with My call to action: plan your life, plan your death, and then just love your life to death. And always bring your own tambourine to the party. We'll see you in the next episode. Namaste, my friends. Bye for now.